Hello? Hey?
Oh,
Wahab, what's
me?
going on?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
just a bit
what's
too
up?
distracted. I've been browsing this new app on social media, and I've been doing that all day, and I can't stop using it. Man, it's really got my attention and it got me hooked. In just a few hours, I now have a few thousand followers and a couple hundred likers, and I can't stop using this app.
Wow, that's very impressive, but we have to go live. And today, dear all, we are going to talk about this social media relationship in our society.
Yes, and especially how that relationship can be toxic if you let it. And anything that's toxic, we want to do a detox from.
Yeah.
So now, when we look at social media, we now see that maybe everyone probably guilty of, even me myself sometimes, that we use it, or maybe sometimes I use it a bit too much, a bit more than I should. But when I do, I somehow don't seem to keep track of time. It just flies by instantly. And what I'm seeing in these social media platforms is kind of like what I want to see, which is weird to describe. But pretty much any social media app today is embedded with an algorithm that is set
Hmm.
to designate and figure out what keeps you hooked and what keeps you scrolling and liking
Oh,
in
yes.
these apps. So if my maybe let's say Instagram feed or TikTok selection will be a lot different than yours, maybe different than my brother's. But that's because it figures out what I'm liking and what I'm watching
Yeah.
to keep me engaged, to keep me scrolling. And the more and more I use this app, the better it is for the people that made it. So now if I like cars and if I like nature, like, hiking, and then let's throw in like Legos in there. What will happen is like it will show me a bunch of selections, and whatever I click and view, it will then keep recommending and refreshing just to keep me hooked into using their platform.
Yeah, so that seems like it can potentially be a big time sink. Let's put it that way. Yeah, so it keeps you hooked, right? And then you end up spending lots of time. Let's say you can think about just the borders of your day, 24 hours. I think it's very easy these days, according to some statistics that I have heard lately, is that on average, people spend something like about 8 hours on their phones, which I think includes social media. And social media, I would say, would be a big chunk of that time. So let's say even if it is just about 1 hour, that is still 1/24 of your day. That is a pretty substantial time allocation if we don't know exactly for what purposes a particular person is using the social media, right? A lot of the time, it could be, if we think about the path of least resistance, to be honest, it's going to be something kind of, let's say, entertaining, right? That you see on social media and not necessarily useful. So it might as well be considered not an optimal usage of time, I would say.
Yeah. And especially like, even though we do spend so much time in it, we like, let's say you're not typically looking at one thing for those 8 hours. You're probably looking at 8,000
Yes,
different videos, pictures, posts. And what
especially if
happens
you're a
is,
curious person,
yeah,
then
and
you will have this tendency to consume more and more. Or this is interesting, that is interesting, and so on. And then that's how your usage of the social media time is accrued.
yeah, and in a way, we've now been overstimulated with sensory input. So we've been looking at 8,000 or maybe 80,000 different posts in 8 hours, what happens is like that pretty much decreases our attention span. And
Oh yeah.
because of social media, like this was an article I saw that said we as humans now have the attention span, like an average human now has the attention span of a goldfish,
Of a goldfish.
which is
Oh boy.
maybe
Yeah.
12 seconds long. And in a sense, that's why we're seeing all these social media platforms now adjusting to be shorter and shorter cuts. Like you have TikTok, you have like YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels that now don't even go over a minute. But in a way, you just keep swiping and swiping to like watch different content. So you're constantly watching over and over again. And it
Yeah.
figures out what you like to watch and it keeps feeding it to you.
Exactly. Yeah, there is so much material and then only a limited amount of time. So it's understandable that this amount of material had to be fit into, let's say, 24 hours or something or whatever time we can spend on social media. So it becomes shorter and shorter to fit more and more. And then the attention span, I think, kind of adjusts itself to accommodate all those kind of short, flashy clips to watch. And then, yeah, eventually we can only pay attention to those small jolts of material injected into us.
Yeah, like I love how you mentioned it. Like it's a jolt of not even, I think dopamine's the wrong word to use to describe it, but it's a jolt of stimulus that just keeps coming to us. It's like you watch
Yeah,
one video,
that's
that's a
what
jolt.
we, or I would perceive it if I were to consume some social media content. And then dopamine, that's what happens later on, I think, as a biological, biochemical response of your body or organism to the content piece.
Yeah. And it's not only consumption of social media. Even now, like social media essentially became a highlight reel that is being perceived as a daily life. For example, like, you know, you'll see someone
Yeah,
posting out of the normal, abnormal stuff. Like, not every day, you know, this person's at a fancy restaurant, or not every day this person is traveling to tropical islands. But because we just constantly see like posts or videos, or even like myself, when I'll go to the beach and I see a view that I really like, I
yeah,
like to share it, like take a picture. The thing is, I'm not there every single day. But if I take, let's say, 20 pictures and
yeah,
span it out to like the course of a week, now people viewing my social media will think, oh, this guy is there every day. Wow, he's so lucky he gets to
yes.
live a life like, you know, unrestricted by normality in a sense.
Exactly. Yeah, so that does happen, and then yeah, conceivably, if you see such highlights every day, then at some point you will start believing that, yeah, well, those highlights is just normal life, and then you start thinking about maybe your situation where you have to study all the time or work a lot all the time, and then it's not going to be that attractive, and then it's possible that you will kind of like feel sad and upset about life. So yeah, we have this kind of attention span shortage, which is not good if you need to be focused on something, I assume. Then you'll not be able to focus for a long time, and then you'll not be able to succeed at the craft, let's say, you're trying to learn, or something that you're trying to get better at, whatever it might be, right? Maybe you'll not be able even to cook something that requires lots of, let's say, cutting of vegetables and meat and whatever else it might be, and then you'll just be giving up on those projects that take just some sort of relatively long amount of time. Yeah, plus this effect of comparison, not good. Yeah, might as well make you feel miserable if you compare yourself or your life with a highlighted life, let's put it that way. So that's quite a threat, and it's important to recognize it.
Yeah, that especially that act of comparing, we subconsciously start to look down at ourselves just for living a normal life. Like
Yeah,
we see this glamorous lifestyle being lived, and now by constantly looking and like reminding ourselves, oh, that's not us, or I'm like jealous of this person, we bring ourselves down. We start to feel worse about ourselves. Then what happens is we are now constantly hooked, like, okay, I need to see,
Yeah.
this and that. I need to now post highlights of myself, which are not true. But I'm going to keep posting it because that little heart-shaped icon I keep getting called likes or
Oh
thumbs
yeah.
up.
That's a big
That's a
tool.
Yeah, that's a reassuring validation for me because all these like likes and comments that are now supporting this highlighted glamorous lifestyle I'm posting, which is not at all like what my daily life looks like, is now the projected image I have of what I want these people to see.
Yes. Yeah. So, and then that's another, I guess, element of addiction that's created here, right? So let's say you post something and then it's natural to keep checking the status to see the likes, updates, if you get more or less than, let's say, other people, whatever it might be in terms of the comparison amongst various individuals. And then, yeah, again, you end up spending more and more time, right, on social media. And then again, so you allocate more and more time on social media throughout your day, whereas you could have spent this time in a more useful way for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm so glad you mentioned like the constantly checking. It's that now this sort of action where like I reach down into my pocket to grab my phone and look has now become like a fixated action. Like I've had uh, smoking or like ex-smokers, people who used to be addicted to smoking, describe to me that it's not even smoking at this point, it's the fixation. Like it's just the idea of
Yeah.
taking a cigarette, putting it in your mouth, having something to do, like an action constantly.
Mm.
When, let's say, they're in a stressful situation and they think, oh, I need a cigarette,
Yes.
complete an action. Like even now, when, like, let's say we're not doing anything, we're waiting, we're like supposed to be studying or improving, but then instead, like, we have this sort of fixated habit. As soon as we get a little bit distracted, it's like, oh, reach into my phone, start browsing on social medias, get distracted. Like that fixation now has just become like embedded in our minds. Like even when you go out, like I started to take a mental note and be like, okay, how many times are
Oh, yeah.
people like
That's a good
taking out
point.
their phones, just constantly checking? Like you have a table of people all sitting together. No one says a word. Everyone's just on their phones.
Yeah. That is quite a bit of the deviation, I think, from what it, let's say, used to be, right? When people gather, they're supposed to talk and share news and then updates from their life, right? Face to face,
Mm-hmm.
not checking the updates of their social media
The
situation.
status updates.
Yeah. So, yeah, because what's the point of gathering? So, you might as well do this in the confines of your room, for
Yeah.
example. And then, yeah, that brings about a good example of how things, let's say, used to be, or how honestly they're supposed to be, because we can, amongst ourselves, foster good habits, right? And then what happened basically some time ago, I was at the dinner, right? And then this dinner involved lots of people from the previous generations. And what was special about them is that they don't have this social media and telephone addiction, and then the habit of checking the things on their phone incessantly, right? So instead, what happened is that we gathered. So I think it was a gathering, some sort of celebration, started around 6 p.m. And so that happened that during that celebration, there was no phone usage for about 6 hours, right? So we just were conversing and sharing the experiences and discussing the news and then projects and our philosophies and whatever it could be. So it was just like a normal stuff. But I caught myself at the thought that these days, I or somebody else might as well be checking the phone throughout all those 6 hours of the gathering. And then this didn't happen at all. So then it felt kind of unusual, but at the same time, it felt very good, I would say, because that I felt like was the proper way to go about the time. Otherwise, if you're on the phone all the time and then people are also on their phone and then you're not talking to each other during the gathering, right? So you're not having some sort of communal, let's say, exchange. And what's the point? So it looks like you're wasting each other's time and showing disrespect and things like that. So yeah, the negative list goes on and on. So, and it is just kind of like one thought that's one event that gave me those thoughts about, okay, well, probably I should curb myself from the social media usage. And I started looking for the ways. So how to implement it. So it just happened next day. So Saturday morning, I was already changing my situation quite rapidly. So yeah, because I realized that, yeah, so it's about the time. And then let's say you have a given, whatever is going to be unit of time, minute, hour. And then, yeah, so, well, you either have it like option to pull out your phone and then start checking that. And then, okay, well, maybe 5 seconds gone, let's say, right? Or you can go ahead and then maybe open, I don't know, your notebook and then jot down some creative ideas about what you want to do in terms of your, let's say, house, or maybe to-do list, do the dishes, for God's sake. So yeah, things like that. So yeah, kind of like detox and then optimization, I would say. It dawned on me it was necessary in my case. Not that I was addicted, but I would admit that I'm not perfect. And then I would maybe overuse the social media and then checking the phone way too much in the under unnecessary circumstances. So what are the ways to detox yourself?
Yes, great
Well, like
question.
halftime through, by the way. So let's just say it for our users and listeners.
Oh, sorry?
Halftime through, 15 minutes.
All right. Okay, we
Yeah.
got to speed this
We
up
are
then.
not cutting this out. That's for ourselves as well. Okay, yeah. So let's share our kind of like detox things. So we're trying to find something easy to follow. So yeah, and then that's something that doesn't require a lot of attention span. So we'll just kind of cater to this attention span shortage. But yeah, so in the hopes that it will actually help us improve the attention span and then evolve from the goldfish stage. Not to say I have anything against the goldfish. It's good crackers.
You mentioned something before we started recording.
Yes.
About like daily time allocations, like setting a specific time.
Yeah.
Where you do not engage in any form of social media, where it's checking, browsing, viewing, whatever.
Yeah, that's a very easy time. That's a very easy way for me to follow. So yeah, of course, you can adjust it to yourself, right? So whoever listens to this material can adjust that the way they like. So yeah, that is definitely possible. But in my case, I'm a big fan of practical examples, right? So what I was doing, for example, Monday to Friday, I decided to be kind of strict about that, Monday to Friday. And then I did not have any social media access, right, to whatever app it is going to be. So you all know about those apps. Let's just not mention them, I think. So it was the time spent from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. That's when I decided not to be on social media in any form. And then, yeah, it is just, if you think about that, it's only about 10 hours. And then, yeah, it's not like 12 hours or 20 hours of the day. So you have 14 hours, so which you can use for social media. So of course it's up to you to use the entire 14, or maybe like one or something, half an hour, whatever it might be. And that's it. And I found myself to be very focused. And then I was getting more things done during that 10-hour time span instead of, let's say, maybe 12 hours or 14 hours of being awake and then doing next to nothing because of this social media intercalation and yeah, being an obstacle.
Yeah, and I also think like something also important to mention is to avoid it at all costs at the beginning and at the end of your day. So
Oh, good point.
when you first wake up, don't start off by like while you're in your bed, start watching or browsing or using social media.
Yeah,
And
why?
right before you go to bed, don't do that. Because in a way, if that's the first or last thing we do, or both, what happens is we have now sort of embedded it just like brushing our teeth in a way.
Embedded.
Like you wake up, you brush your teeth. Before you go to bed, you brush your teeth. Now, in a way, it's like before you brush your teeth, oh, just
Yeah,
mindlessly browse social media for an undesignated amount of time until we essentially forget that we're still browsing it and realize, you're late
yeah.
or you
Oh, yeah.
just wasted half of your weekend day.
That's a very familiar situation. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you need to do that. So I think that's a great approach. So yeah, and then also what I was thinking about that. So before, let's say I was using it kind of uncontrollably and without any restrictions. At some point, I realized, well, yeah. So I think maybe I had at some point, okay, well, just 1 hour to get ready, right, between waking up and then getting out of the door, and then I made a mistake of checking the social media and I just lost, let's say, 15 minutes. And then I realized, oh, yeah, I'm late. So then I was really late for some sort of appointment. And that was kind of embarrassing for me. So I learned this lesson, right? I was regretful about my step of like checking social media and then like sinking in all this whirlwind of the updates and the content. And then, yeah, so I use that regret sort of as a fuel to improve. And that's why I started, let's say, practicing those times without social media, for example. So yeah, I used this kind of negative experience as a kick of myself to improve the situation and my relationship with social media.
Yeah, and regret can be a powerful tool if used correctly, because
Yes.
those hours spent mindlessly cruising are not hours we're getting back. But if we realize that, okay, now we're the amount of time wasted on basically accomplishing nothing except just like checking that little stimulus neuron in our brain, we now realize, okay, now this is time wasted, is not time coming back, but it is time to set like improvement goals. And it doesn't have to be big, like how we mentioned, set a specific time zone where you're not allowed to use it. And then if you feel like you are improving from there, take it to the next step. Go cold turkey. Try,
Oh, okay.
not using it for an entire week. Delete it from your phone if you have to.
Can
I
be
know
the
that's
case.
not, yeah, I know that's not my case because I use it to keep in touch with my friends, from different countries, and it's easier to use the social media chat options rather than,
Yeah, that's true.
text because that doesn't cost me money.
Yeah.
So it is beneficial in that way. And while we have been talking about the negative impacts of, these platforms, there are good if we
There
just
is a
simply
bright side.
set our algorithm to it
Yeah.
and not to take up too much of your time. Try to set your algorithm to keep
Hmm.
finding good beneficial stuff.
That's a
Like,
great approach. Yeah, I never
yeah,
thought about that. Okay.
because with the access of social media, you
Yes.
can access almost anything good. But at
Mm,
the same time, it's a double edged sword. All the
yes.
good you can access also means there's a lot of bad out there. So, what I think is great, it's like even what we mentioned before we started recording was if you've never learned how to change a tire, you can go watch a video on how to change a tire and you can follow it from beginning to end and then you'll learn how to do it. Whereas
Indeed.
before the social media age, you would need direct hand knowledge, like someone would have to teach you.
Yeah. So that's a big, let's say, mine of information, I would say. And you can definitely find something practical from, let's say, a piece of advice to just full-blown education, some sort of mini courses, tutorials, you name it. So yeah, if I want to study something, for example, how to develop a YouTube channel, then I will just go to YouTube, right? Or I can maybe think about, okay, well, if I want to take better pictures, then I typed it somewhere in the browser, right? And actually Instagram offered me to watch some reels about how to take better photos. So yeah, that was satisfying. And then I would also say broadly that you can use social media. Yeah, maybe you will try some sort of 1 week cold turkey detox, right? As you have mentioned, and you delete all those applications, and then you will not use social media for a week at all, right? So, but I would ultimately, what I do is that I use it strategically, right? So, for example, yes, I can, yeah, perhaps use some sort of group chats in social media applications instead of sending a text or calling another person in another country, right? And then, yeah, I cannot always, or they cannot always afford it, right? Because it's just kind of annoying to pay, let's say, several dollars, right, for a text message. Yeah, so I would use social media in this case, or maybe for education purposes. That's going to be another good example of strategic usage. So it's not necessary, in my opinion, to cut it out completely from your life. So yeah, and then yeah, maybe you don't have to have several social media applications. Maybe 1 or 2 will make it and be enough. So and you'll just be happy with that relatively limited number of apps that will not consume a lot of time. So at the end of the day, it's going to be about the optimal usage. So I think it's completely doable and fitable into the canvas of our modern, evolved, busy lives.
Yeah, that's very, very perfectly said. But real quick, how are we on time? Just so we don't go over the limit.
That's good. So yeah, we're like 26 minutes right now. So
okay, yeah. So
yeah,
I guess as closing remarks is be tactically mindful on
I
how
agree.
you use it, and don't look to kill time, because time is the most
Oh, that's big.
expensive currency
Yeah.
we have, and we don't want to waste it. We want to use it. So if I guess the questions you have are, well, now I got rid of this, what else can I do? Substitute it. Find something you've always
Oh,
wanted to do. Like
that's
if
a
you
good
wanted
point.
to learn an instrument, read a
Yeah.
book, learn a language. The internet is full of stuff that we can use to literally become optimal. And we
Yeah.
want to like take every advantage of it rather than let it take advantage of us.
Yeah, I'm sure, let's say, if you, for example, don't, let's say, do sports, for instance, then you can use that time on someone else. It's not necessarily mean, okay, well, I'm going to cut out the excessive social media usage and what am I going to do, right? So yeah, there are so many other activities except social media checking in the world that you will most likely find something useful, fun, and yeah, it's going to be kind of like better than being an excessive user of the phone. I would say, yeah, the phone as a tool is like very practical, so it's a great invention of humanity, but in excess, everything can kind of become destructive.
Exactly. And I think that's all for this episode.
Oh yeah. So yeah, quick shout out to our kind of supporters. I would say this episode was supported by the URI Launch Lab. So that's a great place for the fostering. I use this word the second time already in this episode of entrepreneurial ideas. So you'll find lots of help over there. So head over to their social media. Speaking of strategic usage of social media, and check them out, see what events are going on, if there are any support hours available, which is a great, useful, strategic tool. So yeah, just stop by at the gatherings and get lots of information that will inspire, motivate, and prompt you to do the entrepreneurial stuff, and then we'll help you in your entrepreneurial journey. So entrepreneurial journey, that's what I'm trying to do. And then actually I'm kind of like very inspired and very happy about that. And then I feel like that's a better option than using social media excessively. So in my case, I did find something that, let's say, I can allocate my time for instead of social media. That is the development of this useful podcast project, for example, that is designed to change the world and bring the ultimate value to a lot of people.
Yes.
Well said. So
perfectly. Thank you for tuning in. We hope this episode of Life Hackers was able to hack some form or aspect of your daily life. And we hope to hear from you next time.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Please subscribe. Actually, I'll the clock another time. So, and the like, share, and comment. And then, yeah, also leave your reviews. That will greatly help for the development of this project. And it will greatly help us continue bringing more tremendous value to you and society at large.
Yes, let us know what you want to hear. And
oh, yeah.
we'll not take any much more of your time. I think we're a bit over scheduled today.
Kind of, but yeah, we definitely are over the attention span. But hopefully we are going to bring back that attention span. So
this episode is not goldfish friendly.
Yeah, that's right. And that is going to be the case. But yeah, as somebody said, yeah, good things require hardship and effort, so they don't come easy. So just like this episode, well, you have to keep attention for 30 minutes, but it's okay. I'm sure we'll be able to do that and to the better.
Hopefully, always strive for betterness and optimality.
Exactly. We shall prevail. Bye, everyone.
Take care.